These are notes from the Resisting Genocide meeting that I attended on Wednesday the 27th of November. All the talks were inspiring. These are just two. I'll post more when I get time.
Master's tools. Fighting the master with the master's tools like there's a dagger in my bandage too. All these oddities I'm adding to an attitude to getting even when the math is through. Less a man of words and more a man of truth, so I stand on business, they just stand in suits. Rugged in these rags, Caliban, I'm a savage. Spitting poems in my colonizer's language. The irony does not escape me. Still as I bleed red, they cannot erase me. The one who took my freedom will not liberate me. Keep my hands up to the heavens until God embrace me. These slingshot raps like rocks at tanks, like a phoenix from the ash, like I learn your fucking tongue just to tell you kiss my ass. This ain't how it had to be, but this is where we at. So this is what it's gotta be, a self-fulfilling prophecy. You planted the seed, well motherfucker, the crop is me. Still I spoon feed on the loose leaf, cup to the bottle on my Bruce Lee. Occidental Oriental, see the accident was meant to be. So your bitch ass can take this whiplash respectfully. Cashing in reality checks at the banks of the river of my ancestors' sweat. I deposit, get it back, and I'm blessed. Straight ball and fuck a chain, see the melanin drip. God bless the have-nots. Bite the bullet, I shall not. I'll chew that bitch up and then spit it back. Let my heart break, but my soul's still intact. RPGs, AKs, and missile drops to set our circle of dhikr off. Bismillah.
My name is Sam Weinstein. I'm from the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network here in the UK. But we are an international organization, and you're going to hear from the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network in the US as well tonight. And I want to say, we in the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network, we say never again for anyone, and that includes the Palestinians. And we further say, because this is really critical, if you're not anti-racist if you're not anti-Zionist. And we're delighted to have called this meeting. We've been running a picket in Swiss Cottage, and I'll say more about that in a minute. We've been running it for the last 56 weeks to get the Israeli ambassador expelled. We prefer she go to jail, but we'll accept her being expelled. I want to say we are in the middle of the most massive movement internationally that we have seen in many, many years. Probably, in my view, since the 60s. People have come out for Palestine, and they've come out from different movements. All kinds. The environmental movement has come out for Palestine. The queer movement has come out for Palestine. Black people have come out for Palestine. Brown people have come out for Palestine. In every country, people have come out for Palestine, even in the United States. And increasingly, Jews are coming out for Palestine. Here in the UK, we've seen massive demonstrations, some as great as 800,000 to 1 million. And a large and prominent piece of that has been the Jewish contingent. And we intend to grow it every time there's one of those big marches. And in the United States, you know, Jews have led occupations, they've led surrounding the White House, they've led shutting down the freeways, and you'll hear more about that from our US comrades. All right. They've led taking on politicians in their own homes and all across the country, there are demonstrations going on. And then you know what? He was speaking to 150, 200 people. But 40 million people saw his arrest and saw his speech when it went on social media, thanks, as Chaim said, to the Metropolitan Police. And that's the kind of person that Chaim is. Never to be put off by anything or anybody, and I hand the mic over to him.
Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for inviting us in the Jewish Network of Palestine today. And we are partners every day of the year, and we are staying together, the only two anti-Zionist groups in London. And I used to know all the anti-Zionists in London. You remember those good old days? Yeah. So I'm very glad that I don't know hardly any of them now, because there's so many. And this is a real change from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And a lot of them are also younger, which is really excellent. So there is a new generation. I want to talk for 10 minutes about something that bothers me, and I'm sure bothers you. And that is Jewish identity after the 7th of October. Because for many decades, after 67, you know the Jewish identity totally changed in Britain. And it became basically Zionism. Everything that our history of 2,000 years have taught us, and it taught us with pain, it taught us with suffering, it taught us with wisdom, everything was forgotten and basically abandoned for the tenets of Zionism. Most of the Jews here in London and the rest of Britain, in France, in the United States, have abandoned Judaism. The deity, the tradition, the basically experiences of Jews for 2,000 years, not just in Europe, but of course in the Arab world, where they didn't suffer and didn't have a Holocaust, and didn't have pogroms. All those lessons of history that we as a people have learned were forgotten in favor of Zionism. And those lessons are very important. For example, the lesson of living together in peace and in equality, like the convivencia in Spain, or the convivencia in North Africa, or the convivencia in the Middle Eastern countries, or around the Mediterranean Sea. Many, many locations, Jews lived with Christians and Muslims in total harmony for many hundreds of years. In Spain for 800 years. In Palestine for 2,000 years. Never forget what happened in Palestine for 2,000 years. Before Zionism is coming to destroy everything,
yes,
it not only destroys Palestine and the Palestinians, it destroys Judaism and Jewish identity. Now, something very strange is happening since the 7th of October, but I want to say it's not happening since the 7th of October. It's just clearer. It happened since the beginning of Zionism. And that is the fact that Israel and the Zionist camp outside of Israel is understanding Zionism and Israel as two things that cannot live together. They cannot exist in the same body. As the ultimate victor and as the poorest and most miserable ghetto Jew. Imagine that, the Maccabi Tel Aviv hoodlums arrive in Amsterdam, they attack anyone that they want, they attack property, they attack people, they attack the city of Amsterdam for a whole evening. They also manage to shout terrible slogans in the game they came to see. And then when the people of Amsterdam go out to defend themselves, to defend their homes, to defend their businesses, they shout anti-Semitism, pogrom, Holocaust. This is not funny. It's not funny, not because it's not true, but because, psychologists will tell you, if you are able to hold in your head the idea that you're a total victim and that you are a total untouchable victor, something is very wrong with you. Something is very wrong with Zionism, that they play the victim at the same time that they play genocide. And I'm not even going to go into details because we all have heard and know what has happened, not just on the 7th of October, but afterwards. Just to mention that more than 1,200 supposedly by Hamas and Islamic Jihad were actually killed by the IDF.
Yes.
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 And so, when they say that there was a pogrom, actually, most of the pogrom was by the IDF. It killed about 700 people, 680 people, something like that, with helicopter gunship from America. They shot and shot and shot, and they admitted it in the first 2 weeks after the war started. So what is it that the Israelis are? Are they a ghetto Jew who is frightened to go out, like in Amsterdam, because pogroms and anti-Semites are a danger for them? Or are they the strongest army, not just in the Middle East, but anywhere, that cannot be defeated and yet cannot actually defeat people who fight for freedom, like in Hamas, in Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others? What is Israel? Now, they have not decided because it pays them not to decide. They can play the Holocaust card any day they want, and idiots, which are most of the world leaders of the West, are actually buying into that madness and playing to this Holocaust card. And then they tell us that they can defeat anyone. They can kill people with telephones, with all kind of new technology, and yet, here we are, after 14 months, in few days, 14 months, and they have not managed to defeat a non-government, poor, badly provisioned organization like Hamas. Now, I was already arrested for saying this, so this is not news. But what I'm asking you to think about is the fact that in their heads, they can take those two concepts together and they don't see the contradiction. Now, that is really a sign, I think, of very substantial dissonance. They have a cognitive dissonance. They are not able to identify themselves. They have not decided if they are just a ghetto Jew who cannot go out, or if nobody in the world can stop them. And they also are very proud that they can get any nation to do its bidding. And they do, yeah? We just heard that Israel is behind promoting Qatar because they needed to do that in order, not now, but before the 7th of October, for years. They promoted Qatar. Of course, they never admitted it because it served their politics. If you would like to search for BB Files, the film, the BB Files, you can watch it for free. It's on YouTube. You will hear what they have done with detail, which is quite amazing. So basically, they can actually turn the White House, they can turn Congress, they can turn Parliament in here and in France, they can turn anyone in the West to do their bidding, and the West is doing their bidding. At the same time, they cry wolf and tell us that they are surrounded by enemies. Everyone is a goy trying to kill and to maim and to rape Jews because they are anti-Semitic. Now, these two held together are the sign of the social psychosis of Israel. And I think that is good news in the end. Because Zionism is basically a disease. It is a disease for 100 and almost 25 years. And that disease moves people against their beliefs, against their interest, not just in Israel, which of course it does, but in the States, in this country, in Europe, all over the world, in the West, only in the West, of course. So I think we now are very clear in a way that we were not, say, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago. I'm not talking about you, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about people who are not politically active. They were not clear about the level of psychosis that Zionism has developed in Israel. 97% of Israelis support the war in Gaza. 97% of the population support genocide actively. Think about it. They are, of course, against Netanyahu, many of them, but they're not against the war. They are against Palestine in any possible way. Now, any society that votes by that amount, or even less, for genocide is not a normal society. It is not a normal society. It should not be treated as a normal society. It's left humanity. It's left the human race. And now this is becoming very clear everywhere. So I want to end by saying that these are not new. I mean, we have to, unfortunately, do something very painful and look at the history and the myth of Judaism. I don't have time to develop this, but I just want to mention what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that, you know, I grew up with Jewish religious education until I was 16. I want to mention the memes that Jews use. For example, no time, but remember Amalek. Yeah? If you know the Bible, you know that Amalek was trying to defend itself, according to the Bible, when the people that never left Egypt passed by, yeah, because, you know, the Exodus didn't happen. I'm sure Amalek didn't happen. And we know now that the taking over of Palestine by Joshua never happened. But what did happen is the Bible mentioned this as a great deed, that the Israelites have genocided 26 cities in Palestine. Now, the archaeologists tell you that this never happened, but what is more important is that Israelis and Jews believe in that, believe in and accept, for example, the book of Esther, which is, you know, basically dancing and singing and doing all kind of gay things, because Jews have killed 70,000 people in Susa, in Persia. So basically, Judaism is full of corners that have to be aired, because otherwise we wouldn't very easily see what we see now, because they can always go to the scriptures and say, your Judaism is not our Judaism. Our Judaism is Joshua, is Masada, is Amalek, is Queen Esther, and the rest of it. So I know that this is the case with all religions, but I have to finish. I know that it's a case of all religions, but we should look at Judaism with a critical eye of an anti-Zionist, because Zionism is using all those dark parts of history, and not even history. Most of these things are not historical, yeah? And they're using them to build the people of Joshua, or the people of Esther. We are not the people of Joshua. We have 2,000 years of history to prove it, Jewish history. Thank you very much.